my second film to some investors, and when I talked to Thomas, he was interested in my story, which, as he says, began on the other side of the camera. I was in front of the camera initially, actually got my start as a theater actor very young. I was 9 years old. I started doing theater in the Bay Area, which is where I'm from originally. And I was doing local theater, went to college. My major was theater. Did little short films and student films and that kind of stuff as well. And my senior year of college at UC Santa Cruz, I decided that I wanted to write a play, and that some of the parts that I was interested in playing were not being thrown my way, and that I decided, maybe I should just take the helmet myself and decide what I was going to do. So I wrote a play that I staged and starred in, and had a really good experience with that. Got out of college and decided, okay, I like this, I want to write some more, and I wrote my first screenplay with a friend. That first year that I got out of college, I was up in San Francisco, and I was a working actor, full-time working actor. I was doing Tony and Tina's Wedding, which is a little dinner theater fluff that I did. I played Tony for 9 months in San Francisco. And towards the end of my time in San Francisco, I was deciding, you know what? I really want to start making films, and I'm really interested in the directing process. I had always been told by acting teachers and professors that I was too involved in what was happening in the direction. I always had questions, I always was curious, I always wanted to have input into how things were being done. And so it seemed like a natural fit. I decided I was going to go to LA, and actually giving up acting, which I had found not as satisfying as the thought of directing and taking something on and telling the story. So I went to LA in 2000, the end of 2000, and thought the best thing for me to do would be to start a company and sort of put together a company with a little bit of history and reputation behind it. And so I started my company, which is Jaffle, J-A-F-F-L-E, like waffle with a J, Productions, with the idea that we were going to create projects from in-house that would involve everything. That would be developing, writing, producing, post-production, the whole nine we were going to do ourselves and create original kind of auteur projects. So that was end of 2000. I started doing, my education was mostly in theater, so I started taking film classes at LACC, taught myself how to edit and shoot, and through LACC started doing short films on Super 8 and Super 16. I was very interested in shooting on film. Learned how to cut on film in a Motorola and all that. Taught myself Final Cut, and just started trying to work as much as possible and do various things. Meanwhile, supporting myself as a bartender. And then I was writing projects. I had a script that I wrote, a feature that was actually optioned by a company in LA, and we were actually in talks with a director who expressed interest, a fairly A-list director who had expressed interest in doing the project, his company. And that fell through. That was Darren Aronofsky's company. It fell through when he started having problems with the fountain. Some of you may know. So that never happened. And I realized that a lot of the projects I was writing, even though I wanted to direct them, they were way big budget. And that the reality was I was never going to get the opportunity to direct some of the stuff that I was writing. And I guess it was about 2004, I believe, a friend of mine who I had done a little short film with approached me and said he had written a script and he wanted me to direct it. And I read the script and I liked it and really recognized that it was something that we could do, that was going to be under the $1 million mark and something that was probably feasible to get done, and that was fun and funny. And so we started talking about it back and forth. I had a lot of problems with the script, and he said, look, do what you want to do. Gave me kind of carte blanche, and I started rewriting the script. And then after I got to a certain point, he and I started working on it together. And the goal was, so this is actually 2003, the goal was summer 2005 we were going to shoot this thing. And we went into development, and in that process I was talking to everyone, friends, family, everybody who I could get in front of them, telling them about this idea and this project. And people started saying, that sounds great, I will, count me in. We were talking about, $10,000 a unit, count me in, I'll take a unit, I'll take 2 units. I was also kind of in process on a documentary that I was working on, and some of the people that had were talking to me about the documentary, they said, well, which was a nonprofit, so that was donations. They said, well, I don't know about that, but if you do a film that requires investment, I will invest in that. So around 2004, towards the end of 2004, I was looking at commitments, verbal commitments for about $100,000. And I thought, okay, I think we're going to get this thing done. So we proceeded with, starting to look at crew, starting to put stuff together, hiring a line producer, and with a shoot starting date, I believe it was middle of June, like June 16th, something like that. And as I was starting to try and collect from these people who had given us verbal agreements about giving me money for the project, one by one, they fell off the map. Meanwhile, we had already crossed the point where we had gotten well into pre-production. And we were doing a lengthy pre-production to have as much time as possible. And I had very little money banked. And things started to get very nerve-wracking. So I think we had probably in the neighborhood, we had decided on a budget, in the $300,000 to $400,000 range. And I think I found myself around May, the middle of May, with a late June start date, with something like 70 or 80,000 banked, and it looked like this thing was in real jeopardy of falling apart completely. So I talked to the people that I'm closest with, and they agreed to help me out with a fairly sizable loan, and we were off and running.